Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. We are about to start the second session of 28th Jalsa Salana Jamaat-e-Ahmadiyya Australia, which is the annual convention. This session will be chaired by Dr. Riaz Akbar. Dr. Riaz Akbar is a scientist in environmental radioactivity. May I request him to please chair the session and also give us some introduction of yourself. Thank you. Dr. Riaz Akbar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. That means peace be on you. I have been asked to chair this session. This session, which is the second session of our 28th annual convention here in Australia. We Ahmadis call our annual conventions Jalsa Salana, and you might, our guests might see that name written over there, Jalsa Salana, which if you translate in English virtually means annual convention. That's what it means, but the history and the continuity of this particular event is such that it's probably right to keep the name Jalsa Salana with it. And I'm honored to chair this session of this Jalsa. The Jalsa Salana was initiated and started by the founder of our community. In 1891, the first Jalsa was held, and it was held in the township of Qadian in India, where he lived and he resided. 70 people participated. 1907 was the last Jalsa Salana during his lifetime, and 2,000 people participated. Today, Jalsa Salanas are held in hundreds of countries and regions in the world, and in some of them, tens of thousands of people participate. So the name Jalsa Salana, which is an institution in itself, deserves the right to be kept like that, and we do keep it like that. I welcome you all, the participants, our children, our youth, our ladies, our men, our guests, who are many of them who do not belong to our community, who are over here. I welcome you all over here in all the halls and all the places where these proceedings are being seen and being heard. It's our tradition that we start our sessions with the recitation of the Holy Quran. And I would invite Sayyid Tariq Ahmed Sahib for the recitation. First, the recitation in the original text, and then its translation in English. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم واعبدوا الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب والصاحب بالجنب وابن السبيل وابن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا. Chapter Al-Nisa, verse 37. and worship Allah and associate naught with Him, and show kindness to parents and to kindred and orphans and the needy, and to the neighbor that is a kinsman and the neighbor that is a stranger, and the companion by your side, and the wayfarer, and those whom your right hands possess. Surely Allah loves not the proud and the boastful.
Jazakumullah ta'ala. Thank you very much. Our guests might also notice a tradition of our jalsas that often the contribution of the presenter from the rostrum is not responded by claps. Rather, you might hear a quiet word from the participants, Jazakumullah ta'ala. And Jazakumullah ta'ala means, may Allah give you the best reward for your effort. But if you wish to clap, you're most welcome to do so. It is not prohibited. It is not our tradition to clap in these jalsas. Okay. Now, we have a full program. It involves speeches. There is a poem. I'll talk about that as well. And then there are award presentations. I'll talk about all those things as we go along. Speeches include 2 formal speeches, and then some of our guests, of course, would like to say a few words, and they are most welcome to do so. And I'm quite sure that they will be received in a very welcoming manner and with a lot of enthusiasm by the participants. It does happen all the time. I was asked to introduce myself as well, which doesn't matter much. I'm an Ahmadi. I was born an Ahmadi. I came to Australia in 1982 as a shy boy. Did my PhD, although I had my master's in nuclear engineering before that. Started my career, worked for the Commonwealth, worked for a university. I now retired now or something like that, but I work as a consultant. Environmental radioactivity is my field. You can call me an environmental radioactivist or a radioactive environmentalist, whatever. It's all right. That's what I do. That's my bread and butter. That means what I know is that how does radioactivity move in the environment, no matter it is coming from a nuclear bomb or from a uranium mine, or it is simply the transport of radioactivity which is naturally present in the creek systems here and there, and we are using it for sediment studies, etc. That's all what I do. Okay. It's once again a tradition of our jalsas that we enjoy some sort of hymn, some sort of poem. And this time the poem which is being read is a solo presentation, and that presentation is by Azhar Rehan Khan Sahib. Azhar Rehan Khan, I don't know what couplets you're going to read, so if you can introduce them as well. These are the, and are you going to do the English translation? No. Yes, he's going. Okay, this poem, a few couplets that Azhar is going to read, is actually this poem, which is in Urdu, was written by the founder of our community. Hazrat Ahmad was the founder of our community. He expressed himself in poetry as well, and expressed himself well in poetry in Urdu language, in Persian language, as well as in Arabic language. And this poem is in Urdu language. There will be an English translation of the poem as well, although sometimes the poetic part of it is lost when it gets translated. But I hand the rostrum over to you, Azhar.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum. Few verses from the writings of Promised Messiah alayhi salam. किस कदर ज़ाहिर है नूर उस मबदाउल अनवार का, बन रहा है सारा आलम आईना अबसार का। चांद को कल देख कर मैं सख्त बेकल हो गया। चांद को कल देख कर मैं सख्त बेकल हो गया, क्योंकि कुछ था निशान उसमें जमाले यार का। बन रहा है सारा आलम आईना अब सार का। इस बहारे हुस्न का दिल में हमारे जोश है। इस बहारे हुस्न का दिल में हमारे जोश है। मत करो कुछ जिक्र हमसे तुर्क या तातार का। बन रहा है सारा आलम आईना अब सार का। है अजब जलवा तेरी कुदरत का प्यारे हर तरफ। है अजब जलवा तेरी कुदरत का प्यारे हर तरफ। जिस तरफ देखें वही राह है तेरे दीदार का। बन रहा है सारा आलम आईना अब सार का। चश्मे खुर्शीद में मौजें तेरी मशहूद हैं। चश्मे खुर्शीद में मौजें तेरी मशहूद हैं। हर सितारे में तमाशा है तेरी चमकार का। बन रहा है सारा आलम आईना अब सार का। तेरी कुदरत का कोई भी इंतहा पाता नहीं। तेरी कुदरत का कोई भी इंतहा पाता नहीं। किससे खुल सकता है पेच इस अक़दाए दुश्वार का। बन रहा है सारा आलम आईना अब सार का। किस कदर ज़ाहिर है नूर उस मबदाउल अनवार का। बन रहा है सारा आलम आईना अब सार का। English translation. Lo, how manifest is the light of God, who is the ultimate source of all light. The whole universe is turning into a reflecting mirror for the eyes to perceive him. Last night, while watching the moon, I became so agitated. In the beauty of the moon were the traces of the beauty of my beloved. Under the influence of the consummate beauty, my heart is in a state of turmoil. Mention not to me the comeliness of the Turk and the Tatar. O my beloved, how wonderfully is thy creative power manifested everywhere. Whichever way I look, I find every road leading to thy presence. In the fountain of the sun, the tides of thy power are witnessed. Every star is twinkling with the glory. In the charm which is the essence of every beauty, every flower that blossoms forth borrows its color from the splendor of thy attributes. Jazakallah.
Right, Allah Ta'ala. Thank you very much, Azhar. Thank you so much for the beautiful poem that you read. We enter into the phase of two formal speeches. Each speech is for 25 minutes. There is a clock on the rostrum, and I expect that the speakers will take note of the time through that clock and will adhere to the time as we go along. I don't think that any gongs or interpretations will be needed, but if they do, I'll quietly remind the speakers that their time is up. The first speech is once again the main topic, and the person in that topic is the founder of our community, Hazrat Ahmed, as we call him, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, his full name. He claimed to be the promised Messiah, so we call him Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, the promised Messiah. And the topic is Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, the promised Messiah, services to humanity. I invite Mr. Ataul Awwal Nasir Ahmed Saab to kindly come and deliver the speech. Thank you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, ever merciful. It is our principle to have love, to have sympathy for the whole of mankind. If a person sees that fire has broken out in the house of a Hindu neighbor, and he does not get up to go help out, put it out, I tell you truly that he is not of me. If one of my followers sees a Christian being killed and he does not go to rescue him, I tell you very truly that he is not of us. I say it on oath and in truth that I have no enmity with any people, the promised Messiah. Respected Chairman, distinguished guests, my dear elders, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, or may peace be upon you all. Humility, kindness, love, integrity, knowledge, and striving to do good. All of these words, along with some many more, can easily and simply be termed under the banner of humanity. And it is with this term today that I would like to begin my discourse. Humanity means many different things to everyone. However, the basis upon which it stands is common. Humanity or humanities is used in scholarly terminology as the study or analysis of human behavior, ability, and values. It is this spirit and the expressions that distinguishes one among society. Now, the world has seen many personas that have excelled in the area of humanity in various capacities and ways, and it has been shown through their continuous efforts and desires to serve mankind. A distinguished personality was that of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, peace be on him, the promised Messiah, the reformer of this age, the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, whose very life mastered humanity. The discourse will aim to focus upon the life of the founder of Ahmadiyya, a sincere, trustworthy, lover of peace and harmony, advocate for compassion and justice, whose life of purity is rarely found amongst mankind. Before elaborating on the mentioned topic, I would like to share a brief introduction to the founder of the Ahmadiyya community. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, which is his full name, was born in 1835 in Qadian, situated approximately 35 miles east of Amritsar. He grew up in one of the most respectable families in the land, but he lived a very pious life, attaining a love for the Holy Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, as well as the Holy Quran at an early age. He was from the very beginning not very concerned with the worldly domain, but after completing his studies, he took up service in the district court of Sialkot, according to the wishes of his father. He had a particular gift for medicine, which proved to be particularly useful later on. In 1891, he received the divine revelation from God that he was given the task to reform mankind and that he was chosen to be the promised Messiah. In a world struck by issues of lack of humanity and compassion, he spent his life in the cause serving the Almighty and rejuvenating Islam and enlightening the world of its beauty. He passed away in 1908, leaving behind an eternal legacy and a community which you now know as the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, to fulfill the work that he started. Now, we have all contributed in our lives in one way or another, in assisting or contributing to those who are less fortunate. We strive to lend a hand to those who have been placed in a state whereby they are helpless and cannot sustainably live their lives. However, to carry out such a deed is by far not easy to maintain. It requires sacrifice, effort, and dedication on our behalf. The promised Messiah, peace be on him, displayed such qualities in his lifetime, upholding the banner of kindness and sympathy towards the poor and the needy. Although he took no interest in the worldly domain, as I have mentioned, he joined service in the district court of Sialkot, obeying his father's wishes, and during this period of service, he rented a house whose landlord relates the continued acts of kindness that the promised Messiah displayed during his stay there. I quote, "All of what he earned, he would distribute among the widows of the neighborhood and other needy people. He would make clothes for them or distribute all his salary in cash. He kept for himself some money which could suffice only for his 2 square meals." Unquote. Siratul Mahdi, Volume 3, page 24. Such selflessness and kindness is hard to come by, but even rarer do we find such a person who teaches others. The promised Messiah, who modeled his life and teachings to that of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, urged his followers, I quote, "Have mercy on his people. Do not be cruel to them with your speech, nor hands, nor any other design. Endeavor for the prosperity of his creation. Do not be arrogant to anyone, even if he is your subordinate. Do not use foul language against anyone, even if he swears at you. Become like the poor, forbearing and pure of pure intentions. Become a sympathizer for his creations, so that you may be worthy of acceptance. Unquote. Kashti Anu Ruhani Khazain, Volume 19, page 11. Now, in a world today that is surrounded by greed, poverty, and mayhem, we need to establish humanity in its purest form. A world with tolerance, a world with kindness, a world with respect is a world that we can call home. It is without this outlook that we as humanity can move forward and confront the issues that mankind is facing. The promised Messiah urged mankind to realize this outlook, stating, I quote, "Abandon the course of insensitivity and adopt an attitude of compassion and sympathy. The hardship of this life is like unto a journey in a desert in the midst of summer on a hot sunny day. It would be futile to take this arduous journey without cool water. It is the cool water of mutual love which you so direly need to extinguish this burning fire and to save you from dying of thirst." Unquote. Message of Peace, page 11. The promised Messiah's life was purely in the way of Allah. His mission was to reform mankind and establish peace and harmony. And he did so in his life. His humbleness and sympathy for mankind was always at the forefront of his every ideology, his every conduct. Whether it was those who loved him or those who regarded him as an enemy, his every word, his every action was gentle and meek. We have heard and learnt from the various divine religions stories and revelations of God's chastisement amongst humanity. Such divine law leaves behind a lesson of humility and the need to submit to the will of the Almighty. In 1897, such a calamity befell India in the form of the bubonic plague. It brought mass death and destruction throughout the country. Now, if we stop for a moment and we try to envision ourselves being part of such a calamity, I dare say much of humankind would turn to think about the well-being of themselves rather than others. It is human nature to fear for one's own life in such an occurrence. To be able to put aside the misfortunes befalling the individual and to take others into the care of your heart and mind is true sympathy and love for humanity. True sympathy merely is not just giving sympathy and understanding through me words, but by putting those sympathies in actions. In 1898, it was revealed to the promised Messiah, peace be on him, that the epidemic was going to engulf his hometown of Punjab. Now, the promised Messiah published a notice stating this chastisement was something that can only be cured through cleansing and changing the inner self. That is to say, true cure will come from charity, virtuous deeds, and repentance. However, the promised Messiah was merely not content with verbal sympathy. And so, having knowledge of medicine, he prepared a medication from his own savings, which he distributed to the public freely, which also proved effective in curing patients. Now, what are the fundamental qualities that are needed in order to acquire a passion to serve mankind? We need to have love for humanity, kindness in our hearts for others, a charitable disposition, humility, honesty, and a thirst for knowledge, and when acquired, a desire to share it, and a constant desire to strive in the cause of God by doing all that is good and avoiding all that is bad. Now, in order to make our recipe of serving others successful and fruitful, it is essential to have the key ingredients of love and compassion. The promised Messiah, peace be on him, would make sure he served others over his own needs, no matter how important his work was. His service towards the needy was undying and serves as a role model for all persons. His companion, Hazrat Sheikh Yaqub Ali Irfani, may Allah be pleased with him, relates an incident about the promised Messiah's visits to Mr. Lala Sharampat Rai, a known acquaintance of the promised Messiah, who was seriously ill at one stage. Hazrat Sheikh Irfani relates, he, as in Mr. Sharampat, was a resident of Qadian and was well acquainted with the promised Messiah well before his mission to reform mankind. He was witness to the many signs of the promised Messiah, but never did he refute his claims, even through the many obstacles and hardships that the promised Messiah faced. In one incident, while Hazrat Sheikh Yaqub Ali Sahib, the companion of the promised Messiah, was in Qadian, Mr. Lala Sharampat Rai was ill, having developed an abscess on his stomach, which was extremely painful. The promised Messiah, having been informed about his illness, went immediately to his acquaintance's house with some of his companions as well as Hazrat Sheikh Sahib. Now, upon arriving at Mr. Sharampat's house, the promised Messiah found him lying down. He was feeling extremely aggravated and was despairingly stating that his death was certain. His tone was that of a person suffering and feeling terribly apprehensive. The promised Messiah, peace be on him, gave reassurance to Mr. Sharampat, informing him not to worry and that he will appoint Dr. Abdullah, who would take care of and aid in his recovery. It is important to note, dear audience, that in this period, Dr. Abdullah was the sole experienced and renowned doctor in Qadian at the time. So the next day, the promised Messiah escorted Dr. Abdullah to the home of Mr. Lala Sharampat, and with a personal referral, requested Dr. Abdullah to treat his dear friend, who was not burdened with any of the logistics of the treatment. The promised Messiah would visit him daily during his sickness in its severity, and as he improved, he would visit him frequently until he recovered fully from his illness. It was the qualities of the promised Messiah that he would enter the house always with a smile and positive attitude, which would give Mr. Sharampat reinforcement and support of speedy recovery. The promised Messiah would then warmly encourage him and tell him not to worry, and that he prayed for his recovery. This kind gesture was kindly accepted by Mr. Sharampat, who would also request the promised Messiah to pray for him upon him leaving. The promised Messiah left behind many beautiful teachings and examples from his life so that his followers could also benefit as well as others. He also particularly expressed the need to pray for others and would do so in his everyday life. It was his practice to greet those he met with kind words and support, but then go a step further by praying for them. The promised Messiah expressed in his book, Our Teaching, to all his followers, I quote, "Practice goodness to an extent where it reaches its highest perfection. Be firm of faith and set an example that even the angels in heaven should wonder at your strength and steadfastness and should pray for blessings upon you. I pray that this teaching of mine should be fruitful for you, working a change in your hearts which should make you like stars on earth, filling the globe with light and life you get from the Lord. Amen." Unquote. In another incident of the promised Messiah's unconditional medical treatment of the needy, Hazrat Sheikh Yaqub Ali Irfani, may Allah be pleased with him, relates he witnessed the following incident. Women who were from a low socio-economic background, along with their children, came to seek medical advice from the promised Messiah. The promised Messiah, peace be on him, at the time needed to complete a serious and very important religious sermon. Hazrat Sheikh Arfani relates the promised Messiah, however, warmly received these patients and began serving them passionately, distributing the necessary medicines among the group of children and their mothers for 3 hours. Upon finishing treating his patients, Hazrat Sheikh Arfani Sahib said to the promised Messiah, "This sort of work is extremely time consuming, and valuable time of yours has been lost and wasted." Upon hearing this, the promised Messiah, feeling very satisfied, replied, I quote, "This service is just like a religious obligation. These people are needy. There is no hospital. Therefore, for the sake of these people, I have all types of herbal and allopathic medicines at my disposal, which I can then utilize and give them. This work is purely for the sake of attaining blessings. Believers should be active in this sort of service." Unquote. Life of the Promised Messiah, page 286. Ladies and gentlemen, in an effort to highlight a few examples from the life of this extraordinary persona, I hope we all take away the core aspect from his life: pure love and dedication to the service and well-being of humanity. In a time when the notions of love, compassion, and respect were torn apart by indifferences and intolerant point of views, it was Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah, the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, who made it his mission to serve mankind and bring back the values which were lacking, and do so through his gifts in medicines, and more than that, the power of his prayers. I finish this discourse today, dear audience, in the words of the founder of Ahmadiyyat, who reiterates the fact that true humanity is that which is inculcated through true love and desire within the individual. That only when we truly realize that what we do for others is to the same degree which we wish upon ourselves, is showing the level of service that is beyond being benevolent and charitable. The promised Messiah says, I quote, "If you are an elder, be kind to the younger ones, and do not belittle them. If you are rich, serve the poor, but do not treat them with pride and disdain. If you wish God to be pleased with you, then be like two brothers born of one mother." Unquote. And finally, I quote, "My objective, desire, and purpose is to serve mankind." Unquote. I conclude this discourse with the prayer: may the Almighty guide us all in the straight path, the right path, and enable us to play our part in the mission of serving humanity. We are, after all, the same in being. We feel the same emotions. For if a brighter tomorrow is to dawn, it will so when we start realizing that we share a common bond of love, respect, and humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Taulawal Nasir Ahmed. Thank you very much for your speech and your words, sharing all that knowledge and wisdom with us regarding the service of the founder of our community to the mankind, to the humanity. Nasir Ahmed is a teacher by profession, and we certainly have learned from him. One word that I learned from your speech, Nasir Ahmed, is the word legacy. And it is sometimes the greatness of one's deed can be judged by the legacy which is carried by the people who have been left behind that person and who are their followers. And that I bear witness. Right from my childhood, I was groomed into this culture of volunteer service to humanity, thanks to my belonging to Ahmadiyya community. And now, many, many decades later, I see that culture being taken up by our young generations. It happens all over the world. It does happen in Australia as well. Despite that we are a community of mainly first-generation immigrants, despite that many of us are not well conversant in English, we do take part in numbers and masses in providing service to the community at large. Our activities and great coming out is shown by our ladies, our men, on days like the Red Cross fundraising, the Clean Up Australia Day, etc. Vans are parked at our places of gathering and places of worship, our mosques for blood donation on occasions, and often it happens that the time allocated, the numbers that those number of donors that those vans can take are much less than the numbers that gather at our places of worship to provide blood. And that includes our men, women, both. Often those people then have to go to the traditional centers to put the blood on there. Yes, I've got my bottle. I do mention that look, whereas the speakers from the rostrum are really quenching our thirst of theology, there are our young friends around and with the jugs and the glasses to quench the physical thirst. In the first few rows, there are water bottles provided underneath your seats. And if you don't find them there, kindly raise your hand. And I know that at least there's one person is missing a bottle. And if that bottle can be provided, or pinch one from a seat which is empty. But we do have those bottles, so feel free to use them, and they'll be good. So, yes, there's somebody missing a bottle. And on the third person on the row behind. Yes, next to you. You have a bottle missing underneath your seat. Sorry for that. Okay, so, and that does happen. That service to humanity does happen. And I think it works both ways. One, that it does provide help to those in need. For example, those people who were suffering during the floods time in many states of Australia, particularly Queensland. It happens those who are in need of blood, cleanup, and so on and so forth. But it also helps the members of our community. Those people who are, as I said, are mostly first-generation immigrants. It develops a sense of belonging, a sense of participation, a sense of being a part of the community at large. And that's a great help. So the opportunity exists for both the community at large as well as for our community people to do the work. And that I think is a good model to follow and take up in many situations. We are open to share that model with other people, which we do readily, actually. This time, in some states, when we were trying the Clean Up Australia Day, we decided that we will join teams with other community service groups. So our community member joins teams with, for example, a team that was coming from the Girl Guides, a team that was coming from a school. And that worked very, very well in breaking the ice, you may call it. So that sort of approach is there for us, where we are providing community the service as well as taking some benefit out of it as well for our community. Now, the second speech will be presented by Dr. Umar Shahab Khan. Dr. Umar Shahab Khan's speech topic is the establishment of peace. Dr. Umar Shahab, once again, that will be supplemented by some PowerPoint presentations.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Mr. Chairman, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you. The pace at which peace is fast disappearing from the world today has caused each sane and sensible person to worry. This includes religious people and also those people who do not believe in any religion. The objective of this presentation is to share some ideas how to establish peace in this world. And because I'm a Muslim, I'll be presenting some basic Islamic principles about establishing peace. We will talk about inter-religious peace, national and international peace, and I'll touch a little bit about what Ahmadiyya community is doing to establish peace. The tolerance and respect towards other religion is one of the unique features of Islamic principles for the establishment of peace. It is religion that sets forth society rules of love, mercy, forgiveness, justice, patience, and endurance. Religion is an instrument for mental, social, moral, and spiritual development of humanity and society. Islam bases itself on the truth that divine guidance has been given to people all through the ages. It follows, therefore, all great faiths had a single divine origin and must be respected and revered. The Holy Quran affirms the universality of the prophethood. Islam teaches belief in all the prophets of God. Muslims are therefore not to make distinction between any of the prophets, but revere them all. The Holy Quran says, "Say ye, we believe in Allah and what has been revealed to us, and what was revealed to Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac and Jacob and his children, and what was given to Moses and Jesus, and what was given to all other prophets from their Lord. We make no distinction between any of them, and to him we submit ourselves." Chapter 2, verse 137. God has been equally merciful and beneficent to all nations. If he raised the Holy Prophet Muhammad from Arabia, then he also raised Moses from Egypt, Jesus from Judea, Buddha and Krishna from India, Confucius from China, and Zoroaster from Iran, peace be upon them all. Though some of their teachings have subsequently been interpolated, these prophets were the propagators of the same fundamental truth about the unity of God. Islam is the only religion which accepts the founders of all revealed religions as messengers of God and makes it incumbent upon its followers to believe in all of them. A Christian may look upon the Holy Prophet Muhammad as an impostor. A Jew may regard Jesus as a false prophet. A Hindu may consider Moses as charlatan. But a Muslim leaves the pale of Islam the moment he fails to accept all of them as prophet of God. This is the most practical step Islam has taken towards creating an atmosphere of peace and goodwill among the followers of various faiths. In view of the above, it is manifestly clear that Islam does not monopolize the truth to the elimination of all other religions, but categorically declares that in all ages and in all parts of the world, God has been looking after the spiritual and religious needs of mankind by raising messengers who deliver divine messages to the people for whom they were raised and commissioned. The second important principle of Islam regarding establishment of peace is the protection and respect for the places of worship. So similarly, Islam, on the basis of the principle just mentioned, makes the respect and protection of all places of worship mandatory for all believers. The Holy Quran says, "If Allah did not repel some men by means of others, there would surely have been pulled down cloisters and churches and synagogues and mosques, wherein the name of Allah is often remembered." Chapter 22, verse 41. Is it not significant that in the defense of the places of worship, mosques, that is, places of worship of Muslims, is mentioned last? The next most important Islamic principle about peace is Islam goes further to urge his followers to cooperate and collaborate with others in beneficent endeavors despite religious differences, as per the following Quranic teaching. Say, O people of the book, come to a word similar between us and you, that we worship none but Allah and that we associate no partner with him. Chapter 3, verse 65. On the same principle, Quran also invites followers of other religion as per the following teaching. Help one another in righteousness and piety, but help not one another in sin and transgression. Chapter 5, verse 3. The next important Islamic principle is freedom of faith. Islam taught the world that it is forbidden to use compulsion or force in the matter of religion. It is a unique feature of the practices of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Holy Quran pronounces clearly and unambiguously, there is no compulsion in religion. Chapter 2, verse 257. And Quran also says, and say, it is the truth from our Lord. Wherefore, let him who will believe and let him who will disbelieve. Chapter 18, verse 30. So religion is about winning the hearts and minds of people rather than enslaving them by force. The other important Islamic principle is respect and importance of human life. The Holy Quran says, whosoever kills a person, it shall be as if he had killed all mankind. And whoso have saved a life, it shall be as if he had saved the life of all mankind. Chapter Al-Ma'idah, verse 33. On the similar topic, as we have seen this quotation before, the founder of the Ahmadi community, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah, writes, the principle to which we adhere is that we have kindness at heart for the whole of mankind. If anyone sees the house of a Hindu neighbor on fire and does not come forward to help extinguish the fire, most truly I declare that he does not belong to me. And he says, if any one of my followers, having seen someone attempting to murder a Christian, does not endeavor to save him, I most truly declare that he does not belong to me. National peace. A strained relationship between rulers and the ruled is another factor that can disturb peace. Islam prefers a democratic government, but does not preclude any form of government. Failure of governments and political system, however, can cause misery and dissatisfaction and can ultimately lead to demonstrations, industrial strife, rebellion, and disorder. The teachings of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, are indispensable for the establishment of national peace. He taught that authority vested in rulers is not their private property, but a national trust that must be discharged with absolute justice, and that government should be carried out in consultation with people. On the other hand, he admonished the people to realize that the power to choose their rulers was a gift from God, and therefore it should be carefully invested in those who fully deserve it. The Holy Quran says, verily, Allah commands you to make over the trust to those entitled to them, and that when you judge between people, you judge with justice. And surely, excellent is that with which Allah admonishes you. Allah is all-hearing, all-seeing. Chapter 4, verse 59. After vesting authority in deserving rulers, Islam taught that they must be accorded with the fullest cooperation and obedience, and not to rebel against them. The next verse of the Quran goes on to say, O ye who believe, obey Allah and obey His Messenger, and those who are in authority among you. Chapter 4, verse 60. The authority among you are those people that the government of that country. So obedience cuts at the root of all kinds of rebellion and anarchy, and by laying absolute emphasis on this, the Holy Prophet laid the foundation of national peace. God Almighty tells us in the Holy Quran that peace will only come about with justice and benevolence. The Holy Quran says, O ye who believe, be steadfast in the cause of Allah, bearing witness in equity, and let not a people's enmity incite you to act otherwise that with justice. Be always just, that is near to righteousness, and fear Allah. Surely Allah is aware of what you do. Chapter 5, verse 9. The founder of the Ahmadiyya community, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, explained the meaning of this verse as follows. He says, Allah the Almighty says about justice that it cannot be achieved without truthfulness, that your enmity towards enemy nations should not hinder you from dispensing justice. Remain just because righteousness lies in it. Now you know that those nations that unjustly harm and hurt and cause bloodshed, chase and murder women and children like the unbelievers of Makkah, and do not desist from waging wars, how difficult it is to deal with such people. But the Holy Quran has not taken away the rights of even such mortal enemies and has enjoined justice and truthfulness. I say to you in truth that it is easy to deal with an enemy with hostility, but it is very difficult to safeguard the rights of opponents and to deal justly with your enemy. So this is the way to establish peace. Do justice, and if you want to establish peace, then not only do justice, but the strong should treat the weak with equity and treat them in all the same manner as one's dear ones, as one treats one's dear ones and beloved ones, and ignores some of their defaults. Every problem cannot be solved with force, but good and just treatment fosters a feeling of bonding and trust. The urge of real peace comes from the heart, and the voice that comes from the heart is the only one that establishes real peace because it is based on love and warmth. The present head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, said in one of the peace conferences, if for the sake of our personal gain or loss, or for the sake of our own rights, or for the sake of our dear ones, we fight only for our rights, but neglect the rights of other people, or usurp their rights in the process, we can never establish peace. In short, to establish true peace, we must understand the spirit of true justice. The next Islamic principle, the Holy Quran says, O mankind, we have created you from male and a female, and we have made you into clans and tribes, that you may recognize one another. Verily, the most honorable among you in the sight of Allah is he who is most righteous among you. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-aware. Chapter 49, verse 14. This is the Islamic teaching of brotherhood. A righteous believer is enjoined to adhere to this teaching and indeed to propagate it. This alone can foster love, affection, and equity. Peace and security can only be guaranteed in the world when the false and oppressive notion of supremacy of some nation is eradicated. Peace and security cannot be established until people of each race and nation are able to recognize that they are indeed children of Adam and created by a male and a female and are therefore equal. If one is better than the other, it is in terms of righteousness alone. However, whose righteousness excels others, only Allah knows. No one can judge this oneself. Islam says that all human beings are like family, and it can only look after the peace and security of each member if it lives like a close-knit family. The apparent differences in mankind are only for identification as to who's European, who's Asian, and who's African. All humans, as a human, we are all the same, and therefore a person in Africa has same sentiments as those of a person living in Europe or America, or a person living anywhere else in the world. Peace and security can only prevail when each other's sentiments are cared for. These are the measures of durable peace and security that Islam presents. Otherwise, no matter how many United Nations or Security Councils are there, durable peace cannot be maintained. In a recent peace conference, the present head of the Ahmadiyya community said, those countries who want to be the standard bearers of the peace should sit down together and work how the world can be saved from destruction. When thinking of that, they should remember their Creator and then think for the betterment of His creation. But remember that the path which the world has chosen today, the effect of instability will not be confined to just one country, but will spread all over the world. It is quite possible that we will witness many examples like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, even worse. And he says that therefore my request to you is search inside yourself and look at the benevolent Creator. We must not leave our next generation handicapped and disabled because of our mistakes. Today we must establish peace and save our future generation from a life of disability. He says, we must not let our future generation sink into that pit of darkness from which our ancestors brought us out to where we are today. It will be a height of selfishness if, for the sake of our false pride or for temporary gain, we forget the future of our future generations. In the next few minutes, I'll briefly explain what the Ahmadiyya community is involved in, is doing to establish peace. So we have been organizing Religious Founders Day all around the world since last 100 years, where we invite founders and representatives of all religions to present the beauty of their religion. We have been running Love for All, Hatred for None campaign around the world for many, many years, and we have also been running peace campaign all around the world. There are quite a few young people who are sitting there who don't know that from where this motto came from, Love for All, Hatred for None, which is now everywhere in the world on signs and buses and trains. So this is the man, he's the third caliph of the Ahmadiyya community, and in Spain in 1980, he gave this motto to the world, Love for All, Hatred for None. For the establishment of peace, we are doing a lot of community work, humanitarian, charity, and welfare work. Humanity First is becoming one of the world's largest charity and welfare organization, and we are also involved in disaster response everywhere. One of the reasons for instability in the world, there are many reasons, one of the reasons is poverty. And the Ahmadiyya community has been working on eradication of poverty since last 100 years. So we have agricultural research and development where we enable poor country to stand on their feet. We have farmers and fishermen support. Water for Life is the largest project, which is comparable to Water for Life project of United Nations. Gift of Sight, surgical missions, Our Kids, Our Future. These are some of the high-level projects that we have been doing for the last 20 years. We also support other charities. So we not only work ourselves as charity, but all other charities around the world, we support them. Australian Red Cross, Cancer Council, Blind Dog Association, Australian Quadriplegic Association, Salvation Army, Save the Children, and we also donate to United Nations for different projects. The head of the present head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community has started an International Peace Prize, which thousands of dollars awarded to a person who has contributed most to the world every year. We have been organizing peace symposiums all around the world. And we have been running a peace campaign which covers Australia, Europe, Asia, in trains, in buses, from Sweden to New York, and from London buses to Blacktown to Seven Hills. and we have been spending millions of dollars on this peace campaign. We have been found on the streets where women and children, men, everyone is distributing and distributing the message of peace all around the world. Many examples are there, but I've just chosen one. On 9/11, we collected 10,000 liters of blood just to tell the world how important the peace is and human life is. And we do it throughout the years, but just in one day, 10,000 liters of blood is I think, important achievement. At the end, I will quote the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about the establishment of peace. And I've taken a quote from his last speech, which is called Last Sermon. He says, "Our lives, your lives and your property have been made sacred by God to attacks by one another till the day of judgment." And he says, "O men, you have rights against your wives, but your wives also have rights against you. Remember, you must always treat your wives well. All men, whatever their caste or race, their status are equal. An Arab has no preference over a non-Arab, or a non-Arab over an Arab, nor is a white one to be preferred to the dark, nor a dark one to a white one." And I'll end my speech with this quote from the present head of the Ahmadiyya community, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad. "The world needs peace, love and brotherhood. The world needs an end to wars. Instead of walls of hatred being erected, we need peace to prevail. And for this to occur, people of all faiths must join together." Thank you very much.
Jazakumullah ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. Zindabad. Okay, thank you very, very much for your enlightening speech, Dr. Umar Shahab Khan.
Thank you.
Somehow we have, or at least I have, have been very successful in scaring the speakers about the time. Both of you have not only adhered to the time, you have finished well before time. Thank you very much for your effort, speakers, about it. Now, Umar, your speech is both important and timely. If you look into the news and views, or behind the news in the world today, we all know that the world is becoming more and more polarized, more and more nodal on the divide of not only borders, but also belief. And in that environment, to talk about the common good that many different beliefs have, and to share that view is important. It is not important on international level. It is important on the national level as well as on the community level, within councils, within the cities. It's very important. And we have seen that the lack of such things can cause problems. And your speech provides not only, I would say, doctrinal evidence, but also the historical evidence and examples that this can be achieved. At least Islam is ready for it. And I think the forums will be there for this message to proceed further. One recent international example I can quote, a recent gathering which was arranged by our community in the UK, in which the present head of our community, Mirza Masroor Ahmad, was present. 1,000 participants. Most of them are dignitaries from many different countries, as well as the political figures from the UK were there. One of the Secretary of State, as they call them there, did call him a great leader of peace of this time. A lot was discussed about the peace level, but on a hierarchical level. On that hierarchical level, the head of our community has written letters to His Holiness the Pope, and as well as the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Israel, the president of Iran, about exercising constraint, about taking part in discussions so that the world can be saved from the potential of conflict which is looming around us. But we do need to make effort on the local levels as well. And you're all invited to take part in the activities with us. We are there as a community, as it has been demonstrated. Now, this is one session in which a number of guests join us as well. And I would make a mention of some of those names that would be kindly talking to us as well. There are many names. I have to put my glasses on for those reading those names. We have Councillor Kathy Collins here with us. We have Councillor Jacqueline Donaldson with us, and we have Councillor Alan Green with us. Is that correct? No, Councillor Alan Green didn't turn up. Sorry, missing you, Councillor. And we have Honourable Amanda Fazio with us. She has sent apology, and somebody else will talk on her behalf. Is that correct or not? No. Okay, that's good. In a way that we have at least two people over there. Do we have Shaukat Musalman? Yes, Shaukat Musalman is there, and he would be talking to us. There are many, many different names. Okay, and we have a message from Honorable Victor Dominella, MP, Member for Citizenship and Communities, Minister for Aboriginal Affairs as well. Okay, all right. All right. We have, I'll read that message as, or at least parts of it later on. And we have also have a message which was sent to us. It's an international guest who came here a while ago, didn't come to Sydney, but did come to Australia. And he was a paramount chief Pakomra by Cabo from Sierra Leone. And he has sent his best wishes and a successful gathering over here, and a message of greetings to all the participants over here in Australia. Couldn't stay as long as this meeting goes along. The message from Honorable Victor Dominella, that I'm delighted to send my best wishes to the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association of Australia as you celebrate, I have to turn it this way, as you celebrate at your annual gathering. The importance of Jalsa Salana cannot be overstated. It is very symbolic that the theme of today is peace, tolerance, and humanity. We do not ask migrants to forget where they came from. Instead, we ask them to share the culture and knowledge they bring with them. Your community does exactly that, and does so to the great benefit of New South Wales community. Okay, thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Honorable Victor Dominello, for your message. It has been read. He says that on behalf of the New South Wales government, I wish everyone on the Jalsa Salana all the best of today's celebrations and into the future. Thank you very much for that. Now, I will invite some of our guests to kindly talk to us, but to continue what we have been discussing before, these two speeches, and to wrap it up, there's an interesting twist to this story of service to humanity and to peace. The very community that is involved in all these deeds itself is subject to severe religious persecution in some parts of the world. Many of the people who are sitting in this room have migrated from their homeland because of that reason. And they bear the scars and wounds and hurt of that time. Still, we have not lost one thing. That is, we are here to serve others. It is still there. So deep is the message of peace, love, and service to humanity in our community. And so long it has been, right from the day of formation of this community. It is not something that we have coined today. It is the message that we believe is traceable to the message of Islam and to Prophet Muhammad, and it has been virtually hammered in the foundations of our community by the head of our community. Even in the country where the community started, that is the country India, recent persecutions are taking many forms and angles. A few days ago, one of the mosques, the places of worship, was of Ahmadiyya Mosque near Hyderabad in India. The mob came and they encircled it, and people were locked in for several hours inside before they could be rescued. And the name of the mosque was defaced by the mobs that were attacking. But that doesn't make us retaliate in a silly way a single bit. All what we are doing is enhancing our efforts to call the world more towards tolerance and more towards peace. I invite our speakers one by one. I request Councillor Kathy Collins to kindly come and talk to us. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kathy Collins. Yep. Oh, all right.
Just a little bit steep for me.
Oh, sorry for that.
I'm only short.
No, that's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everybody here. I thank you very much for the invitation here, which comes to me on a regular basis. Last year I wasn't able to attend, and I was sorry about that, particularly as you've moved this particular session to a Saturday instead of a Sunday, which works well with my own Catholic faith, where we do things on a Sunday with the church and with the family. So I appreciate that, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And while I'm thanking you, I also should thank you for moving the Australia Day gathering to another day other than Australia Day, which allows you to attend our functions and allows us to be able to attend your function as well. So I thank you very much for the effort you've made to change the dates there, which is just wonderful. I understand that there's 2,500 visitors coming to this assembly today and over the weekend, and that is amazing that 2,500 people choose to come from all over Australia to be part of this conference and hear the messages that you're putting out continually with regard to peace. I guess in the top of it is the message peace, and underneath that comes all those things which are so important to everybody in this room and to many outside this room. Mr. Chairman, you're talking my language, I have to say. Listening to you sum up the two previous speakers, I'm listening to them and thinking how important is the message that they are talking about. Humility, knowledge, kindness, love, honesty, and then the cover here, loyalty, equality, freedom and respect. And I am not sure which of those comes first. But what I know is it's all my language. It's all those things that I care about, and it's those issues that I talk most about wherever I am, and I certainly encourage others to do that. The fact that you're participating in local events, and this is for the local people sitting in this room, the fact that you're participating in local events such as the Clean Up Australia, for which I've been chairperson for a number of years, is very important to me. The fact that I know that the whole of, pretty well the whole of Richmond Road and certainly Hollingsworth Drive is going to be immaculate after that is just wonderful. The fact that I know that you're then going to make the effort to come down to our combined gathering at Narragansett Reserve, both men and women, is wonderful. And it is just great, and if the women are watching, thank you very much for participating and joining in that activity. It has been great to see the women involved in it over the last couple of years. And I know that that will go on because it's just wonderful to see that. With regard to the Cancer Council and your efforts and contribution to the Cancer Council, we also have a local activity which is run by the Cancer Council, which is called the Relay for Life. And over the last 10 years, that organisation in Blacktown has managed to raise over $1 million. Now, I know that with your help, we would be able to do a great deal more on a local level. So this year we're actually aiming for over $1.5 to $2 million, and we would certainly welcome teams from this organisation to come and join us, maybe as a team yourself, or as has been suggested, joining with other community groups to be part of that team. I see that the way forward with regard to this amazing population that is coming to Australia is in fact to make as soon as possible, join the local groups that are in existence in your particular area, so that you're seen as people who want to work in the community and work with others for the betterment of the community and for peace for all. And I think that certainly is the way to go ahead. With regard to issues of coming to Australia, newcomers to Australia who come from their own countries, skilled with professions and trades and so on, but actually are not able to take up those professions in Australia because of the lack of language, which was also mentioned earlier. Being able to speak English is probably not the easiest thing that one from another country can do. I think a lot in Australia have a problem speaking English, let alone someone from overseas try to tackle it. But the English is a drawback. And I understand from a recent multicultural committee meeting that I went to that the real problem for people getting their professions recognised and being able to practice them is the fact that they can't pass the test that is applied. And that, in fact, they have to keep on doing this test. They have to redo it, and they have to redo it. And each time they need to do it, they also need to pay the cost, which I also understand is quite exorbitant. Now, I don't have a problem. I think that everyone sitting in this room would say that we need the best professionals that we can have, and they need to be able to speak English and be able to provide their skills at the highest level. And I don't think anyone in this room would argue with that. But we need to make it possible for you to be able to do that. And what I'm going to say to you is that the University of Western Sydney and certainly other universities now have colleges which are slightly different to campuses. And the colleges provide courses and mentoring and assistance that allows people who have come to Australia, for one, to learn English as they go and to upgrade their skills in an environment that they're comfortable with. So they're not as threatened as going to, say, Sydney University and wondering how on earth they're ever going to manage because no one particularly is taking any notice of them. So the University of Western Sydney now has a college at Blacktown, at Nirimba Precinct, Education Precinct. They also have another college at Westmead and proposing to set them up at Bankstown and Penrith. And I know that UTS and more than likely Macquarie and other universities would have similar colleges. And I would urge people to take up this message because this is a way ahead. This is a way of learning the language very quickly and skillfully and being able to upgrade those qualifications that you have brought to Australia that we certainly need to have you put into practice and do it in a much faster way at a little less cost, because I know that is costing everyone enormously. I'm not going to say more. I'm just going to thank you all very much for making it possible for me to attend today, and I look forward to seeing you at all those functions I've mentioned, and contact me if you want to know more about clean up in locally or the Cancer Council's Relay for Life. I would love to hear from you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Kathy Collins. We appreciate your coming here quite frequently and attending our gatherings and also keeping us up to date about what is happening around. It's educative in a way, and I am sure that people who are involved in the education from our community side would take note of the existence of the courses that you have mentioned are being initiated in different colleges through different universities. Some of them are already existing, some of them are likely to come into existence soon. Also the humanitarian work, joining hands with other organizations, I'm sure that it will be taken note of, and people probably will interact with you as they have been interacting in the past. Now, we have Councillor Jacqueline Donaldson. Councillor, kindly.
Peace be with you.
Thank you.
There are a lot of things that are very similar in my life to the stories that I've heard this morning. I'm also a first-generation migrant, and though I didn't come from a country that was war-torn, we came here to make a better life, and I'm sure that that's the main reason that most of you have come, to make a better life in this country. I'm a Christian, and so I hear the words, and I've learnt a lot today, and I hear the words of peace, and they're the words that we would like to speak as well, that we would share as a community the peace that comes from God. In Isaiah, there is a scripture that says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon us, so that we will heal the sick, that we will look after the poor, and that we would serve God in every way that we can." And Jesus reiterated those words in the New Testament and passed them down to us that are Christians. So when I hear the words that were spoken today, and as a teacher I love to have teaching, and I've taken several pages of notes, they're the words that we would echo as well, that we need peace in our world. Our churches are also being persecuted in India, and there have been several of those burnt down and people killed in the last year. So as a people, as Australians here, we need peace. We need to have tolerance. We need not to have those misinformed ideas where we believe that people are a certain way and they behave a certain way. I have a favourite saying. It is that just because you live in a garage doesn't make you a car. And there are people who say they are people of faith and they're not peaceful. And that's on both in all faiths. They're not peaceful, and they don't look after others, and they're not kind, and they don't do the things that our leaders tell us to do. But we are a people of peace. And it starts with us. As we share peace with the people around us, as we work in kindness, as we live the way that we are taught as people of faith to live, then that peace will surely come. I'm a councillor for Blacktown Council, and I had the privilege on Australia Day of being there when the award was given for this event. And it was recognised as the best event in 2011, and I'm sure it will go on to be an amazing event today as well, with an even bigger increase in numbers than there was last year, I think. You are part of our community and we are part of yours, and we do believe that the things that have been taught this morning about faith, about peace, are really important, and they work towards uniting the community. There is nothing worse than a community divided. It's so important to have that unity there. I'm a councillor for this ward. This mosque stands in my ward for Blacktown Council, and it's a privilege to have it here. And I hope that in any way, if I can help as a councillor for this local area to return that kindness that you are showing to us, I would be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Okay. Look, thanks a lot. You shared not only your words, your heart with us as well. Thank you very much for that. And it's great that you're a teacher. You must be a very good teacher. Look, and certainly there are jewels of wisdom in all scriptures of all prophets of the word. And we respect Bible and great words of wisdom that are in the Bible, both in the Old Testament as well as in the New Testament. The sayings of Prophet Jesus, the sayings of Prophet Isaiah, and prophets before that. They are all the source of guidance for all of us. Now, also, it's very good to know that you're representing the very locality where this mosque stands. People of my age have seen the evolution of this whole process, this building coming up, and the meager starts that we had. 28 years ago, the first Jalsa was held in a small shed, which is right over there where we probably will go for lunch. And the number of participants, I was the custodian to write the number of names of all who participated, and it was less than 70. It was less 2,500 people today, and this hall, of course, is insufficient for them. We have got at least 2 more halls where people are not only listening to us, they are also seeing us there through the video system that's hooked up over here, as well as people are working around in the kitchens and at the gates, etc., and in the library or bookstalls, all those areas, and the voice is being heard over there as well. So yes, all those people are hearing your message as you're talking to us. And we have now, I'll request Shaukat Musalmani, MLC. He's a member of our Legislative Council in New South Wales, to kindly come and address us as guest speaker.
Thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum wa bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It is certainly a pleasure, Mr. Chairman, to be with you here this morning, joining you on such an important occasion. And I'd like to, first of all, express my gratitude to the past and present owners of this land, the Aboriginal people of Australia. And I'd like to also acknowledge the presence of councillors and others, your guests and the community here, not only from this area, but as I understand it, from across Australia. So to you, I say welcome, and I hope that this conference will be a success to you all, because the message that you will portray, as the chairman had said, it goes on video, and it goes across not only in Australia, but across the world, which is a message of peace and harmony. I, Mr. Chairman, came to Australia in 1977 from Lebanon, and that was a war-torn country, war-torn by not only politics, but unfortunately the politics degenerated into religious conflict because the politicians wanted them to be. And the unfortunate thing, as a result of that, people suffered. And it was the innocent people who suffered. And we had to migrate. We migrated to Australia, and we arrived in Rockdale with a family of 11, my mum and dad and brothers and sisters. And we've lived in Rockdale ever since. In Rockdale, where I've been mayor 4 times and councillor for the last 16 years and still on the council, I've seen Rockdale transform into a real multicultural hub, presenting certificates of citizenship, and you'll see a whole wide range of people receiving it and living within the city of Rockdale. And that is also typical of other cities that we have now in Australia. And the message of peace that you portray, Mr. Chairman, and your community portrays is not only loud, but it's been heard by many people across the political spectrum. You've heard some of the speakers here from the local government. I am from local government, but also from the state government. And I can tell you that my colleague, the former president of the upper house, Amanda Fazio, who's an apology because she has a sore throat, she actually moved a motion of congratulations to the Ahmadiyya Association at the New South Wales Parliament in the New South Wales Legislative Council. She congratulated your organisation for the peace and harmony that you convey, and also for the hard work and commitment that you've shown to the various community groups and to the wider Australian community, whether it's for blood donation or other services that you've conveyed. In particular, She was very happy to have been with you, and as I was at the Australian ceremony you held a few months ago. So Australia has not only become a multicultural society, but has recently more so accepted other faiths, and so become a more multi-faith society. And this is the road that we, through your organisations and other organisations of your kind, have directed and driven Australia to be one that is not only multicultural but multi-faith, one that is seen not only and believed in Australia but also worldwide. And that is the message that we must always portray. I've seen the terrible conflicts that religious or sectarian conflicts can cause, the terrible harm, I should say, that religious conflicts can cause. We welcomed just a few days ago, and after this I must apologise, I won't be joining you for lunch because I have to go to another function where we have visitors from Bahrain who have been persecuted there. And they also arrived at New South Wales Parliament, and we received them, and there was a cross-party speeches in the Legislative Council condemning the killings of innocent people in Bahrain, as we always condemn the killing of innocent people anywhere around the world. And that's the message that you are portraying through to the Australian community, and as I said, it's coming through New South Wales Parliament, it's going through Federal Parliament. And I want to congratulate you, Mr. Chairman, congratulate the Ahmadiyya Association on this important event, and congratulate the entire community of, as I understand, about 8,000 to 10,000 members of this Ahmadiyya organisation. So congratulations today, and I hope it'll be a great success. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind message, Shaukat Musalmani. That was very kind of you. You could find time and to come over here. It's a pity that we won't be able to interact more today at least, but I'm sure that there'll be more occasions in the future when we'll be seeing each other for different functions. Okay. Now, one thing that our community takes very seriously is the future settlement and establishment of our youth. We put a lot of emphasis on education, not only from the theological side, but also from the secular side, secular education. Internationally, we pay attention to it. Nationally, we pay attention to it. There are many, many reasons for it. One simple reason is, and that's when our community is just an example. There are many models of that. That if you do the age profiling of our new settling community, you'll find out that we are a bit out of norm from the society in general. We won't have very many oldies as the societies have, and we have much more younger people. But that's not special of us. It is special of any new migrating community. But we have to pay heed to it. And we pay heed to it right from the childhood, right from the primary education onwards. We have got that statistics. We follow that statistics well, etc. And at a certain epic level, it shows up in the form of giving some awards. We give some awards to our high achievers. The bar is set very, very high in that. So the awards are given in this ceremony only to very few people, but the recognition is there for each and every student who puts an effort in it and who takes the well-being of the community over here at large a little bit further. You really look into our community, and I did compare the statistics between us and many other general stats, and we are not doing bad in that respect. We are doing quite good, and over the past 10, 15 years, we have done very good achievements. right from taking those people who were young and who had some degrees, and we could push them to PhDs, and then they got some good jobs, as well as school educations, following it to the university levels, etc., etc. It has come up nice. It's paying its dividends to the society overall. But today there will be an award ceremony that will be held over here, very brief ceremony, and for that I will getting we will getting help from certain people. Our national secretary who looks after the education is Idris Khan Saib, and Idris Khan is going to help us in announcing the education awards, and will also arrange how the awards are going to be given. And following that, there will be some other awards, and they are related to Red Cross and Clean Up Australia. And they will be announced by Omar Khan Sahab. And we have to request Shaukat Sahib to kindly stay, because the awards have to be given by you. So please don't leave that early. Okay? Yes, Idris, I hand the rostrum over to you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This year, the academic awards go to the following members: Ibtisam Ahmad Zia for achieving OP2 in HSE from Shalom College, Queensland. Ibtisam Ahmad Zia.
Barakallahu alaikum.
Hamza Khalik for achieving an overall distinction in software engineering with honors from Flinders University, Adelaide. Muhammad Hamid Ahmed for achieving an overall distinction in honors from RMIT University, Melbourne. Muhammad Hamid Ahmed. If he's not here, can someone from Melbourne come over and, yes, please.
President Melbourne.
It's your right student.
President of our
Substitute.
community from Melbourne is receiving that award.
Our ladies also claim some awards. I'll just read out the names, and the awards will be received by them in the ladies' session today. The names are Aisha Masood for achieving OP1 from St. Francis College, Brisbane. Faiza Ahmed Minhas, achieving an ATAR of 91.80 from Mitcham Girls High School, Adelaide. Samra Malik, achieving an ATAR of 93 from Plumpton High School. Khawla Ahmed, achieving an overall distinction in Bachelor of Food Science from University of Western Sydney. Saima Ahmed Minhas, achieving an overall distinction in Bachelor of Medical Radiation with honors from University of South Australia. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. So those were the academic awards. Those were the education-related awards. As you noticed, the bar is set very high. And so these are the names of our high achievers. Now I request Umar Shahab Khan to kindly come and assist in the distribution of Red Cross and Clean Up Australia Day Awards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a large number of volunteers who work for the Red Cross Door Knock Appeal and also for Australian Cleanup Day. And it's very hard to pick up people, so every year we award some people for their efforts. And sometimes they're on the basis of the amount they've collected, and other times their contribution over the years. So there are a few names I'll mention here. One name is Chaudhry Muhammad Sarwar Sahib. He's the oldest member of the community in Victoria. He's 81 years old. And he has gone to many streets and knocked the door and collected some of the largest amount of money for Australian Red Cross. So if we have Chaudhry Muhammad Sarwar Sahib in the hall.
Yes.
दूसरा वाला
Barakallahu alaikum. I envy your fitness at the age of 81, Jalsa.
Another member who has shown extraordinary efforts, and he's quite old as well. His name is Chaudhry Rafiq Ahmed Gumman, and he has collected the highest amount of money in his suburb. So Chaudhry Rafiq Ahmed Gumman Sahib for Australian Red Cross door knock appeal. Thank you. For Australia Cleanup Day, the Ahmadiyya community presents the largest number of volunteers across Australia. And as I said, it's very hard to pick up, but we got a name for outstanding contribution for Australia Cleanup Day. His name is Dilshad Ahmed from South Australia. Dilshad Ahmed sir. Now, I've got one most important award to give away, and this award is for a person who has devoted his life for the propagation of peace and harmony around the world, and he's the person who has been given awards to people for more than so many years. And what this person has shown, this example has shown, that we not only say things, but we do what we say, and I'm very humble to request Maulana Mahmood Ahmad Sahib to receive the Australian Red Cross Award. And this is one of the most extraordinary awards. He has been door knocking since last 10 years, more than 10 years.
Barakallahu lakum. Akbar. Zindabad. Zindabad.
Last 15 years, he has been doing it. Thank you, Amir Saab.
That's inspiring. It tells us age doesn't matter. Your office in the community doesn't matter. Mahmood Ahmed is the head of our community in Australia. He is also the missionary in charge here. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't stop him from doing the door knocking. And that's the spirit probably with which the community should live. So proud to be in it. Now, before we conclude the Jalsa, this session, there must be some announcements. And I invite Omar. Are you going to do that? Omar is going to do the announcements, and after that, we'll conclude.
There are two announcements. One is after this session, we will go out, and there is exhibition, book stall. If you're more than welcome to move around, see the mosque, or visit the bookstall. And also, we have lunch in few minutes. So you're all welcome to join for the lunch. Second announcement is that the annual meeting of the Ahmadiyya Engineers and Architects Association is going to be held downstairs after this session. So all the members of the Ahmadiyya Engineers and Architects Association are requested to come downstairs for this meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay, so should we close? Okay, I announce the session to be closed. Thank you very much for your participation. And we did it very well. It is 11:59. Thank you very much. Yeah. Bye-bye.